Hello, everybody. This is Sandi Lerman, and welcome to How to Become a Parent Coach or Educational Trainer. Some of you, I reached out in our Facebook groups that I'm in of teachers and people who are looking at new things and wanting to move on to do other things. And I just made some really informal posts saying, hey, does anybody want to learn about being a parent coach or educational trainer? And there were quite a few of you who raised your hand and said, yes, you were interested in doing that. So that's why we're here today. And I know some of you weren't able to be here. There were some storms last night for whatever reason. That's perfectly fine. I am making a recording of this and I'll be sending that out to those of you who were not able to make it live. So I thought what we would do today is I would tell you a little bit about my story, kind of how I became a parent coach and a trainer and how that all happened. Give you some ideas on how you can transition out of the classroom into something new if that's something you're interested in. Some of you may be parents looking into becoming parent coaches, or you may be teachers, or you may be both. Regardless of that, everybody has different strengths and interests, and so that's fine. You want to do what's going to light you up and make you excited to be at work every day, right? So we're going to talk about that too. So after I tell you my story, if anybody has questions, it looks like we have one participant here right now. So if there are any questions about any of the things that I share with you, we can take some time to do that. And then at the end of the presentation, I will tell you a little bit more about if you would like to get more training in becoming a parent coach, if you'd like to go a little bit deeper, I can give you information on how to do that as well. If it's a fit for us to work together, that'll be great. If not, I'm happy to share with you other resources and other people that I know who are fantastic and can give you some support as well. All right, so my story. I was a classroom teacher for many, many years. I started in 1990. So if you calculate that, you can figure out I've been around the block. I had a chalkboard. That's how old I am. This was pre-smartboard, pre-whiteboards. I had the chalk on the back every time I leaned back on where I had written stuff on the board. I actually worked at a school where they used those blue mimeograph machines in the first year that I taught. I was actually teaching in Mexico. I taught overseas for a few years, and so it was back in the day. So things have changed quite a bit in education since then, and yet things have also not changed in education since then. There's still a lot of things going on there that can be very stressful and very frustrating for teachers especially, but also for parents and for children. It's not always a great environment. So for me, I loved working with kids. I always felt like the kids were my passion, working with kids, and especially those kids who are a little bit outside the box, a little bit, they didn't really quite fit in, and they may have had some behavior issues, and everybody else kind of wrote them off. Those kids ended up sort of becoming my kids. They would find me, even if they weren't officially in my classroom, they would wander around the building and they would find my classroom and kind of wander in like a stray puppy. And I developed relationships with them and was able to make an impact that way. So I've always sort of been interested in helping students who are struggling for whatever reason. And I think a lot of us went into education because we want to help, want to support kids, we want to see them grow and do great things with their lives, right? So that was the part that I loved. What I didn't love was the politics and the craziness and even some colleagues who were toxic to work with, those kinds of things. And I know that for a lot of you right now with coronavirus, everything that was bad before has just been magnified because of the additional stress. So certainly, while teaching is a very rewarding career in many ways, it can also be soul crushing in many ways, and it's also not very lucrative. It's hard to make a living and do what you want to do. So that being said, in my case, I adopted a youngster who was at the time 10 years old, and came to me with severe neglect and abuse and massive trauma and lots of really aggressive behaviors and things. And I was really out of my league. Like I thought, oh, and he's also deaf. And so I thought, oh, I know sign language and I'm a certified interpreter. It'll be fine. It'll be great. I'll teach him sign language and everything will be great. Well, I had no idea how much, certainly being deaf and being language deprived, where he grew up, he didn't have access to a sign language at the time. So he was really behind in terms of his language development and all of that. but it also affected his ability to self-regulate and have emotional regulation and to know really what was going on. And so it's just constant fearful types of behavior. So anyway, long story short, I became fascinated with this idea of trauma-informed parenting, understanding that he's not a bad kid, he's a scared kid, right? His behaviors aren't coming from being manipulative and defiant and those kinds of things. It's more, he's terrified, he's in fight, flight, or freeze. His brain is, his amygdala is firing, doesn't have access to his executive function. I really started studying all of that and trying to learn more. How can I reach this kid? How can I support him? And what I realized was a lot of the things that I had done in my classroom for those outside the box kids were the same things that helped my son. So I was working with him and really trying to develop a sense of safety, a sense of connection, a sense of relationship, where he didn't feel like he had to defend himself and to survive, right? So I realized this really applied not only to parenting, but also to teaching. And since I'd been in the classroom for so many years, I felt like this information people need to know about this, because when I was teaching, it was, you follow the rules, and here are the rules, and I'm posting them on the wall. And if you break the rule, here's your first consequence, here's your second consequence, third consequence, and then you go to the office, right? It was all punitive. It was all, marbles in the jar, stickers on a sticker chart, all this rewards and consequences kind of paradigm. And for me, that's what I was taught, that's what I used. But for those kids who were outside the box, it never worked. And so I didn't use that with them. I used relationship-based teaching. And with my son, using stickers on a chart, using punitive consequences, all of that, it did not work because he was terrified. So I learned, okay, we need to shift this paradigm. We're doing everything wrong in the schools and in our parenting. So at the time, because he was so massively in need of support every day because of the behaviors, and we had hospitalizations, we had all kinds of therapy appointments and everything else, I was finding it hard as a solo parent to actually work a full-time job as a teacher and also take care of my son the way he needed to be taken care of. So I thought, how can I transition out of this full-time job? He would always have meltdowns in the morning right when the bus came. And I'm like, okay, I gotta call in for a sub, but it's like 5 minutes past 6 o'clock and you're supposed to call by 6 o'clock to get the sub. It was just a nightmare. So I'm like, I can't continue teaching like this. I can't pour myself into this child and also pour myself into my outside the box kids at school. So I'm looked to see, like, what can I do that would be less stressful during the day so that I can put all my time and effort into helping my son. And I thought, well, I'm really fascinated with this whole trauma-informed thing. What can I do? So I started looking at agencies that did work with families, and I ended up getting a job that was a 30-hour-a-week job, but it didn't have benefits. It was a contractor position, but it was at least 30 hours a week and fairly good salary. Not nearly as much as my teaching salary, but it was like I could live on it. And I worked for an agency as a parent educator. And it was great. I really learned a lot in that position and just became very fascinated with parenting and supporting children. Anyway, long story short, I started blogging about my experiences and talking to people about my experiences, talking to other adoptive parents, talking to other parents with kids like mine, and realizing there really is not a lot of good education out there for kids like mine and parents like me. There are a few people doing trauma-informed things, but even those things that they were doing were not effective. And so I created my own system. I started really spending some time really looking at what was working, what wasn't working, blogging about it, talking about it. And then other parents started reaching out to me and they said, well, can you help me with that? I was like, sure. And then so I started informally talking to them. And then I thought, well, there's a thing called parent coaching. Maybe I could charge people to do this. And so I got my first client and she paid me to coach her. And I told her, I'm a brand new parent coach, just let her know. And she's like, that's fine, but I just think what you're doing is really good. It sounds like it would really help me. So I started parent coaching her. And then I thought, well, I'm going to make this my part-time side gig while I'm working at the agency, right? So I'm doing parent education. I'd already been blogging and talking about it. I'm like, I can do this as a side income. And then that income started to grow because you can charge in parent coaching, most people charge at least $100 an hour or more I'm now at the point where my packages run anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000, for a certain number of parent coaching sessions. People are desperate for solutions, and they will pay you to do parent coaching, right? So at the same time, I was working at the agency, so it helped me feel like, okay, I want to be able to help everyone, not just the people that can afford a private parent coach. So it was a nice kind of combination. I was working with people who couldn't afford a parent coach, but we had grants that were covering, what we were doing at the agency. And then I was also doing the private coaching. So I enjoyed that sort of both worlds. But then as that started growing, I realized that this is a huge need. So I grew and grew that business. And then I stepped away from that agency, went into another agency, was working for them a little bit fewer hours, and then eventually stopped working at the agency and just built up the parent coaching business. And then I realized, this model that I'm using is really effective and I think really good. So I started asking people, do you want to learn how to be a parent coach? And they said, yes. So I said, okay. So I started training parent coaches. And then a few of the parent coaches that I was training several of them were also teachers like me, because you tend to attract people into your world that are like you. And they said, the teachers need this information too. I said, you're absolutely right. So we created an educational trainer program, and that took off. So I now have a company. It's called Heartstrong International. We train parent coaches, we train educational trainers, and people who want to do both. So some people want to train teachers in trauma-informed practices. Some people want to train parents in trauma-informed practices. Some people want to do both, because obviously when you're in a school, you're doing both. You're working with parents and teachers regardless. Now, since I've started that program, we started it before the pandemic. We're doing our 7th cohort now. And it was all online before. And of course, that turned out great because now everybody's online. So we've had people from New Zealand in our program. We've had several Canadians, lots of people from the US who've been through the program. But what's exciting to me is that the world is becoming a virtual world. I mean, the metaverse is happening already. And people are excited and they're ready to engage online, and you can have connections and you can do trainings and you can do things with people all over the world. So I have been a parent coach to parents living in Japan. There was an expatriate family the dad was working at an international school there. And mom was a stay-at-home mom with her kids, and they were adopted. And she was having lots of issues, and so they reached out to me. So I've worked with people in Japan, I've worked with people in Canada, New Zealand. It's literally an international company because so many people are willing to do that across state lines. The other nice thing about parent coaching is that it's not like therapy. So the difference between being a mental health therapist and a parent coach is that a mental health therapist is looking at a diagnosis. They're looking at the clinical aspect of what's wrong with this person, and then kind of going back into your history and looking at your childhood history and kind of working through the trauma that way. Parent coaching is hands-on, practical, in the trenches. What do you do when the kid is throwing a plate at your head? That kind of thing. What do you say? How can you communicate? What are the steps to get from here to here? And kind of that, it's really like a peer mentoring situation for those of you who are parents. I usually don't recommend, if you're not a parent, that you become a parent coach unless you have a very specific topic that you're teaching parents. I think that's perfectly fine. But I think if you're teaching parents how to parent, it's important that you have that experience as a parent so that they don't feel like, okay, this is just one more professional telling me that I'm an idiot, I don't know what I'm doing, right? So I think that's a really important piece of what we do at Heartstrong. I only have parents becoming parent coaches, and I only have teachers becoming teacher trainers. Because I don't know if you're like this, but when I was in the classroom, I did not like sitting in a training with some PhD from some university who'd never been in a classroom telling me how to do my job, right? I mean, if they had spent time in classrooms, it was one thing, but I just really feel like teachers know what's needed better than other people do. And and they're also better facilitators of meetings. Other people don't know how to teach stuff. So, and that's the other thing with the trauma-informed stuff, I've been to a lot of trainings where I love the person who's speaking. I love their work. I've read all their books. They're amazing. But then they get up to facilitate and it's okay, but it doesn't come across the way that it needs to, like they don't break it down piece by piece so that people can really get it. So I feel like the beauty of our program is that we're training teachers. They already know how to teach, like they know how to facilitate, they know how to train, they know how to make sure people get it, break it down into that, step by step. And then we're just adding on, so for the coaches, we're just adding on coaching skills. So I teach specific coaching skills, how to coach people. And then also I teach business skills. So that's one of the 4 months of that program. There's one whole month that's dedicated to business, how to set up your business, how to do your marketing, how to tell people about what you're doing, and all that so that you can get your first clients. So I've had graduates of that parent coach program who have started right away, like they started before they graduated even, they just started coaching. We always do a practicum. That's part of that second 4 months. There's a practicum where you'll get some experience doing coaching and I give you feedback. And then from there, those are unpaid clients, but those people might then want to be paying clients going from that point on. So that's kind of my story, how I got into doing all this. I think that parent coaching is really going to explode. I know a business coach who she works exclusively with parent coaches, and she has a huge audience of people that she works with. But she's not teaching them how to be coaches. She's just teaching them the business part. So if that's something that any of you are you already know how to coach, or you've already been coaching, but you want to learn the business piece, that's another person I could send you to if you want information about that. So if some of you want to be consultants, I know I have another friend of mine who she specifically works with people who want to be consultants in schools. So winning contracts, winning bids for proposals, requests for proposals and submitting applications for those, and then going to do like a series of trainings for a school. So our program at Heartstrong is about how to be a trainer, how to train, and then how to set up your own private business. All of those things are kind of like the next step. That's like the advanced piece. So if you already know how to coach, or you already know how to train, or you know how to set up a business, this might not be the program for you. But if you're brand new to the idea of not being in a school system where like your days are set, everything's by bills, you have your benefits, everything's all like you just show up and teach. There's a little bit different mindset that you have to have as a business owner. Like you have to be your own motivation. You have to be able to schedule your day, figure out what you want to do and all of that. The nice thing about it, there's pros and cons to everything. I think the pros are that there's super flexible schedule. You decide when you want to work and how much you want to work and what days you want to work, what days you're not going to work. I only do coaching on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. On Mondays, it's all like just business things that I do. Fridays, I don't usually take any clients because I want to have the weekend off. Sometimes I do something like this on a Saturday once in a while just to let people know about what's going on, so it's just super flexible. And if I have a client and then I need to cancel because my son has a medical appointment, because he does have a lot of not only the mental health but medical issues as well. If I need to cancel, I can just say, hey, can we switch to this other day? And then usually they're very flexible. Everybody knows my story, so they're not upset about it. And it's not like when I worked in the school, they would get very upset if I called for a sub more than once or twice a year. It was not easy to flex my schedule for my personal needs. Whereas for having your own business, you decide, you're the boss, so you decide what you're going to do, when you're going to do it. So the time freedom is huge for me. The income potential for coaching is huge. It's I don't know how many billions of dollars industry now. It's growing by leaps and bounds. The idea of doing this phone or Zoom coaching, where it's remote, it's very, very easy to get into, and it's the possibilities are kind of the sky's the limit as far as your income goes. Now, that's not to say this is a get rich quick kind of a thing. It does require that you be disciplined and that you really know how to do time management and that you are focused. You need to pick a niche. You need to pick like an area of parent coaching that you are a specialist in, or educational training that you're a specialist in, and make a name for yourself and get known and do marketing and be visible. I mean, there's a lot to it. It's not an easy job, but it's very rewarding and it's very exciting, and it's very creative. I change how I'm doing things all the time. I add new programs, I change programs, just what the market needs. So I love it. So it's not for everyone, but I really enjoy it. And that's my spiel. So I want to open it up to the floor to anybody here who has any questions. It looks like we have one person here. You can put it in the chat or you can unmute and ask questions if you have any. And if not, what I'll do is I'll send this recording out to those of you who weren't able to be here, and you're welcome to email me with any questions that you have. I will send you some links to my program so that you know kind of if you're wanting to get training as a coach or as a trainer and learn how to set up your business and kind of get started. I'll send you all that so you can take a look and see if it would be a fit for you. I'm looking for people who are really passionate about helping kids who are sort of outside the box, the kids who have trauma. And when I say trauma, I think of that as an umbrella term, right? So trauma is kids who have experienced any kind of abuse and neglect, of course, but also kids who don't feel like they fit in for whatever reason, or they're being bullied, or they're being discriminated against, or they have a difference in their, they're different neurologically, if maybe they're autistic, maybe they're highly sensitive, maybe they are LGBTQ, maybe they're, there's all different kinds of kids who just, we're not reaching them or we're not helping them the way we need to be. We're not developing relationships with them. When it's all these punitive systems are not there, we're failing kids and we're not doing what we need to be doing. So that's the system. I have the Heartstrong system we have templates and models and acronyms and really easy tools that you can use to train parents and to train teachers how to build those relationships, how to help kids regulate and co-regulation, how to deal with explosive behaviors. I have a program called the Explosive Episode Elimination Kit, which is for kids who are really reactive, how to help them without punishing and rewarding them into it. Just lots and lots of tools and strategies. And I feel like our program compared to, I used to teach, so I taught online for Concordia University for a while in their trauma-informed education program. Their curriculum was great, but it wasn't as practical. It was more theoretical. In our program, it's the theory, and we read tons of books because I'm a reader. We also have a community called the Trauma-Informed Changemakers Book Club and Community, if you're a book reader and you want to join us in that. And that's included if you join one of the other programs. But so for any of you who are interested in learning more about that program, reach out to me. We'll hop on a Zoom call. We can talk about whether it would be a fit for you or not. If it's not a fit for you, that's fine. Like I said, I can refer you on to other people that might be a better fit for you. But if this is something you're passionate about, if you really want to reach those underserved kids and families and teachers who are struggling, and you want to help us shift the system, because that's a goal. And we're not just about let's make some money being a parent coach. We are a mission-driven company. Our mission is to shift the paradigm, to heal childhood trauma and prevent childhood trauma by shifting the way we do parenting and teaching. That's the goal. So we're going to heal the kids who are already experiencing trauma. They're going to heal themselves, but through our relationships, we're going to provide a safe container for that to happen. And we're also going to prevent the continuous traumatization of children by all these punitive, really damaging methods that are happening out there in parenting and teaching. So if that's something you are passionate about, then you need to reach out to me. If you're saying, I don't want that, I just want to do something else, get a business, there are tons of resources I can share with you on that as well. You can reach out to me and I can send you along to those resources. But if you're passionate about trauma-informed support, let's get on a Zoom call and talk about it, and you might want to join us. Our next cohort starts the first week of February. We are taking applications right now. Actually, you can sign up right now. As far as the parent coaching and the educational training, that's an 8-month program. But the first 4 months is a trauma-informed intense training. You'll get a certificate. You'll be a trauma-informed specialist at the end of the first 4 months. And then if you want to go on to become a trainer or a coach, then there's an additional 4 months that has a practicum and feedback. And I really give you all of my tools and strategies for how to be a coach and how to be a trainer and how to start your business. So let me know if you're interested in that. So are there any questions in the chat or in the audience? Yes.
So it sounded like from the beginning, and it started as a side hustle,
Mhm.
and you were blogging, and then people started reaching out to you. So it sounds like primarily at first you were getting your people kind of just through maybe word of mouth and a little bit of like currently established networking. Do you feel like that's still the case, or where do you think your clientele is primarily coming from now?
Yeah, I'm like really involved in a lot of Facebook groups. So people kind of know me in some of those groups, if that makes sense. So I try to post a lot of value in groups. So I'm not just out there like, hey, you want to be my client? Hey, you want to be my, I try to make it like a really even balance between just providing help and support to people, as opposed to like advertising my services kind of thing. So I use Facebook a lot. I've done a little bit of Facebook advertising, but not very much. It's mostly word of mouth. And so, yeah, I would say that once what I've done and the way I built up the business, and I teach all of this, like, of course, in my business course, I go into depth about this, but I did a lot of free trainings to start. And once people signed up for the free training, then I can stay in touch with them. So I have their email and I can reach out to them by email and let them know about my paid offerings, that kind of thing. So you want to start creating an email list and you want to get people on your list, and then you want to provide value, just let them know what you're doing, do free trainings, do this and that, and then people get to know you. And then when they see that they really like what you're doing, then they'll reach out to you if they want to hire you to do consulting or coaching or whatever it is that you're interested in doing, if that makes sense. But I know people who are very who invest a lot of money in Facebook advertising or in other kinds of advertising. There are people who do YouTube, have a YouTube channel, and they're constantly posting content. So there's content marketing, where you're producing content, blogging, YouTube, podcast, that kind of thing. And then when people hear your content or see your content, they get excited about your work, and then they reach out to find out more. And you always have like a call to action in there, like, hey, if you want to know more, here's how you can get in touch with me, that kind of thing. So that's the primary way that most people do their advertising and their outreach now. But there's all kinds of other tips and tools and ideas and things that I share in the business course, of course. But and then there are business coaches out there who just do that. Like, you could hire a Facebook ads coach and just get somebody to coach you on Facebook ads. So I've hired some coaches like that, or I've been to a lot of like workshops and trainings and business. I've taken business courses. I've done all of that. And I've probably spent over, I don't know, thousands of dollars taking those courses, just kind of patchworking it all together. What I've tried to do in my program is like take all the golden nuggets of like what's the best information that I've used and include that specifically for how to start a parent coaching business or how to start an educational training business, for those two things. So mine's kind of super super focused on that, but there's all kinds of people out there doing trainings and things on specific things that you might want to learn. But you want to make sure that you resonate with the person training you, because there's some people out there who are great, but like I don't like the way they train. So I'm super picky, but I'm a teacher, so I like working with teachers and parents who get it. Did that answer your question? I kind of went on for a while.
No, yeah, it did. I'm the kind of person who I'll listen to a presentation and I will have zero questions. And as soon as we end this meeting, I'm gonna be like, oh, oh, oh. So
Yeah,
I'm
oh,
glad that
that's
I got to
fine.
ask one.
Yeah, so if that's true for you, for anybody listening to this recording, like if you're thinking about this, you're like, oh, I'd really like to start my own business. I don't know if I want to be a parent coach, but that sounds kind of cool. Or I don't know if I want to do training, but I don't know. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Like I said, you can join my program. That would be amazing if it's a good fit. If it's not, I'm not gonna like be upset. This is really just a very informal, hey, this is an option for some of you if you're thinking about it. But I think everybody should have a side hustle of some kind. even if you're just like selling t-shirts online and you just have a web store and people could just buy it and it's passive income like that. I think we all need it because we just don't know what the economy is going to look like here in the next few years. It's getting kind of nastier out there in terms of jobs and inflation and all those things. So having something that's an additional source of income is always a good idea. Whether you run with this and make it your full-time income, some people will want to do that. Some people will just want to do it as a side hustle. It's totally up to you, but I do think it's a really good, everybody says, what about insurance? What about benefits? I'm like, well, you're going to lose those if you lose your job anyway, so you might as well have a side hustle that you can either grow into. Like if you're making double as a parent coach, you can pay for your own insurance. You know what I mean? Like this is what people don't realize. They think, oh, I'm going to lose my benefits at my job. Well, I finally decided, when I adopted my son, it was a big investment. It was a lot of time and effort and flying back and forth to his orphanage where he lived overseas, and a lot of things were happening. But I thought, if I lose my job, I'll lose my benefits. And I'm like, you know what? In the long run, if I'm not happy at my job, I'm going to be sick. And that's why I need the benefits. So it's like, I don't need the benefits if I'm happy and I'm healthy, right? So these are the kinds of things you have to think about. Like, what kind of quality of life do you want? Do you want to have a poor quality of life with benefits so that you can pay for all your hospital bills for the stress-induced illnesses? Or do you want to have a higher quality life with a little higher risk? Maybe you have to pay out of pocket for your benefits. It may be a little bit more of a roller coaster in terms of your income when you're getting started. I do recommend that you save up some money before you quit your 9 to 5 or your 7 to 3 or whatever it is for teachers. It's important to have a safety net because it can be very risky to start a business. You don't know if incomes are coming every month, So think through all that. Talk to financial planners. Talk to all your people that have that expertise. It's not get rich quick. It's definitely some elbow grease involved in all of this. But for me, it's worth it. Like, I really love the flexibility and I can do what I want to do. I can create a program. Right now I'm thinking about doing a brand new program I'm really excited about. I haven't told anybody yet, so I won't announce it until I figure it all out. But like, it's just fun because it's like you think of what you want to do and then you go do it, and that's how you test your market. You do it. If everybody's like, they don't want it, they're like, okay, that was a bad idea. If you put it out there and like a bunch of people sign up, then okay, let's do this. Let's continue down this path. So there's a bit of experimentation. But for me, I have that kind of a brain that likes to always try new things. So that's fun for me. Any other questions? No? All right. Well, I will, if anybody wants to stay after to discuss anything, you can do that. I'm going to end this recording. And again, if you want to reach out to me, those of you who are listening, my email is support@wingbuilder.com. That's support, SUPPORT, at wing, like the wing of a bird, wingbuilder.com. And I'm Sandi, and I would appreciate your time listening to this recording and hope you have a great day.